All right, let's go. Today we have with us Matt Semelsberger. Matt is currently signed with the UFC and competes in the welterweight division. Thank you for coming on the Daily Dose MMA show. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm good, brother. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good.
Cool, man.
So I want to start off with a bit of the past and how you came to be in the UFC and to start competing. So before being in the UFC, you used to play football and were actually working your way towards a criminal justice degree. So what made you finally take the leap and decide to commit fully to professionally pursuing prize fighting?
So there's kind of a few different things. So fighting had always kind of been in the back of my mind. So originally football was like the first plan. Like I wanted to play in the NFL and play, as high a level of a football player as I could go. So that was the original plan. But once I got into college, man, I had like just a bunch of different things in life happen, man, things that get you distracted and this and that. So I never really got to reach my full potential, at least I feel, in my collegiate football career.
Yeah.
So I was kind of going into like my junior year of college, and I was kind of like, not like I didn't think the NFL dream was a possibility still, but it was one of those things where like I was at a small Division I school, not very well notable to a lot of these pro scouts that are looking at like a lot of the bigger schools. So I was like, in my eyes, and that's when like I was still kind of training a little bit. That's when kind of fighting started growing on me a little bit more. And then summer going into my junior year of college, my best friend actually died in a car accident, like literally like a week before I went back to school. So that really kind of fucked with me a lot. And just kind of going into like my senior season, like I had a phenomenal senior season in football my college year. And I was like all conference and did really well. I had a couple offers to play professionally over in Europe, but nothing with like the NFL or anything like that. So that's when I like, after that season, and I kind of gotten over my best friend's death. Like, I mean, never fully get over it, but I kind of had gotten myself back on my horses and was like getting myself motivated and inspired again. And a big person who had something to do with that was a guy named Kylan Moore, and he was a teammate of mine at Marist College at the time. So kind of fast forwarding, this dude Kylan, which I definitely encourage everyone who's watching this, go look up this man, Kylan Moore, CAYLIN MOORE. This dude, one of the most inspiring, motivating motherfuckers I've ever met in my life. And he became one of my best friends that I've ever known for the short time that we were together. So Kylan actually ended up transferring out of Marist College. I was a senior at that point, and I was already kind of like tipping the scales, like, I don't really want to stay in school. I really want to pursue this fighting thing. But it was one of those things, man, like you have a whole family who's behind you going to school. They want to see you graduate. You got to, from a society standpoint, people, I always say, go to college, get a degree, that'll get you a good job, this and that. So I had so much of like this battle between what I really felt like I wanted and what like society and like, people that I cared about, what they might think of me and this and that. So it was like this tug and pull battle. But once Kylan left, I remember having like a conversation with him. He transferred out to go follow his dreams. And he wasn't sure like where it would take him, but he was taking that leap of faith. So that was kind of like the final straw. Once he told me he was leaving, that was like the aha, like light bulb moment. I was like, dude, this is a sign, man. I was like, this is my best friend from college, and we're on the same page with everything. This dude's a dream chaser. I'm a dream chaser. This dude's about to go out and set out on his dream. So I was like, bro, that's a sign to me. And that was kind of like the final straw. And I was like, all right, let's do this thing. So I'd say it was a bunch of little things for sure, but the big thing was one of my best friends, passing away, and that kind of making me look at my own life and being like, well, hey, dude, my life could end in a blink of an eye or snap of a finger, man. So like, I might as well be doing something that gives my life meaning and that makes me feel happy. And fighting was definitely that. So.
Yeah, well, you said you're a dream chaser, and you certainly chased that dream. I mean, it's been just over a year now since you made a very triumphant UFC debut, uh, with against an opponent, no less, that you hadn't been in camp for, someone who actually stepped in against you, and you won that fight. And then in the time since, you've competed twice more and picked up a very promising and a very spectacular finish, one that you actually won the KO of the night bonus for. So it's been a year now, and how's that experience been?
It's been cool, man. It's like I'll put it this way, like going into the last fight, I kind of had gotten lost in it a little bit because it's like I'm so new to all this, man. Like before I was in the UFC, like not that it matters or anything, but it's like I had like 400 followers. Like the only people who really knew or cared about my career were like my family and like close friends and people who I went to school with and this and that. Then it's like, boom, you get into the UFC and then you got a lot more eyes on you, and then boom, you get a 16-second knockout, and then you got a lot more eyes on you. So it's been cool, man. Like I'm taking it as a blessing no matter what, because there's good and bad that comes with everything. It doesn't matter what it is. So I'd say I kind of got caught up in a lot of it after the Jason Witt fight because of the fact I got the 50K bonus and it was like, a spectacular knockout and this and that. So it's been cool, dude. It's been really cool, but it's also been kind of like a sensory overload in a way. It's settling down now. And I'm kind of starting to feel like I'm at home now with everything. But beforehand, man, it was a lot for sure to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah, it must have been. I mean, going from competing on the smaller scale and then moving to something that's quite literally the biggest stage in the world when it comes to martial arts, it's got to be a difficult transition from there. And then finding success almost immediately, like you went two in a row, and both of them were quite amazing fights. I want to talk about the third fight that you had, the last one against Chaos Williams. A very game opponent, a very strong guy in him, and then that unfortunately didn't go your way. But I want to get into a little bit about where your mind was at post that fight. Like, what were your thoughts following that? And then if you could share a couple of adjustments that you made after that loss happened.
Okay. So my initial thoughts, like right after the fight ended, I knew I'd lost, like on the scorecards. You know what I mean? I felt like I was kind of coming on in the end in the fight, and I felt like if I had a little bit more time, I would have been able to do a little bit more. But right after the fight, I kind of knew that I lost on numbers and just activity. Like Chaos was just he. I remember walking out and hearing him talking to I forget who was interviewing, but he said numbers don't lie, and that was one thing I remember walking away from the arena listening to him say numbers don't lie, and he's true, man. So he came out with a very good game plan. He's very strong. Obviously, he hits like a freaking truck. So he all credit to him, man. He came out and executed a very good game plan. I knew I wasn't active enough. That was the big thing. I feel like I probably landed the cleaner shots, but he was just all over me the whole fight, man. And that was the one thing going forward into after this fight, and what I've been training for is not trying to be a sniper, not trying to be this person who just looks for that perfect shot, is fighting with high volume. Like someone who sticks out is Max Holloway. That dude fights with such high volume, and he has the ability to turn it on when he wants to, but he doesn't tire himself out or put himself in compromised positions by just putting everything into all of his shots. So I've been working a lot more higher volume striking and using that to set up my takedowns. And that's another thing. I was like kicking myself in the back of the head. I was like, bro, like if I would have executed a few takedowns, man, that fight would have been mine. Now, having said that, I'm not much of a point fighter. Like I'd rather go in and finish people for sure. But I understand the game. I understand this sport, and I do understand like the value it comes with scoring points and treating it like a game of points, because you know what I mean. You rack up more and more points, whether it's low kicks or jabs and this and that. It's like it's gonna have its effect later in the fight. So going forward from the Chaos fight, definitely a lot more activity and being more front end with everything. So instead of being sitting back and being reactive with things and just kind of going with the flow. I'm setting the flow. I'm setting the rhythm. I'm setting the tempo and everything now. So that's the big adjustment we've made.
You mentioned takedown somewhere in there and doing more with them, going for them more. Is that something that you've been focusing on, adding that to your arsenal? Like I noticed you recently got your purple belt, which congratulations for that. Is that a skill set that you've been building up for fights moving forwards?
Oh yeah, man. I got a lot of grappling skills that I have not shown off because I like to strike with people, man. It's like a personality trait of mine. Like it's just, that's the most exciting thing to me is being on the feet and standing and banging with people and trading. But it's also like one of the things that's got me in trouble before too, where it's like, when you talk about taking the easiest path or the most clear path to victory, there's been fights where it's like, just take the motherfucker down and you got him. But I'm like, well, kind of like standing with this. I want to see if I can go into this dude's game and beat him at his own game. You know what I mean? So I have that. That's just a gamer, like player trait about me, man. I like going into other people's games and exploring their realm and their world and trying to conquer it. So not the greatest thing to do as a fighter because you can get yourself in trouble, especially when you're dealing with specialists. You know what I mean? Whether it's a striker who's a specialist or a grappler who's a specialist. But yeah, I don't think that'll ever leave my personality, man. I'm just a game person, man. I like playing with people.
I mean, it's fun, right? You're chasing your dream. You're going out and fighting. Might as well be fun. And well, going out and exploring other people's games, that's a fun way to fight. So you recently had another fight announced, and that in fact is we've got just under a month remaining until that happens. So could you talk about that a little bit? Like your opponent, what's your game plan like going to this fight? How's your camp been?
Yeah, so Martin Sono Jr., to be honest, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know what his record was, nothing, man, until like after I said yes to the fight. And I mean, my coaches knew who he was and this and that, but it was like the first thing I heard out of their mouths was UFC 266 preliminary card live T-Mobile Arena. And I was like, yes, hard yes. Like, I don't care who it is. I'll fight anyone. And then he told me who it was, and he's like, Martin Sono Jr., he's 4-2. And then for a second, I was like, kind of scratching my head a little bit, which like, it's not in 2021, it's not like super unknown to see some of these guys with lesser fights getting signed by the UFC. Like 10 years ago or like X amount of years ago, you wouldn't see it as much. That's why like my coach, John, says like, this is today, the day we live in now in 2021 is like the best time to be a fighter. You know what I mean? Because everyone's getting a lot more exposure. So, and I was going off on a tangent. What were we talking about?
Basically, just like your game plan, like how you're preparing, how's your camp been?
Yeah. So going back to Martin. So anyway, I looked his record up. I watched a couple of his fights, and then obviously I know he trains with Nick Diaz and the Diaz brothers. So, it's one of those things, man. I've kind of seen both sides of it. Like I've seen people say like, give the UFC a lot of like flack for signing this dude being 4-2. I don't think he's fought in like 2 years. Hasn't gotten a win in a little bit. But that's like in terms of like the negative sides of things that I've seen. Like, you know what I mean? People, even myself, man, like I'm 8-3. I was 6-2 when I got signed. So maybe people were looking the same way at him like they were looking at me. So but I'm not buying too much into it, man. It's like one of those things. I see everything, but like I have a good filter. So to me, in my eyes, this guy trains with some of the best fighters in the world and the Diaz brothers. He has a bunch of resources at his disposal to have been getting better since he last fought. So it's been like almost 2 years. For all I know, dude, this guy could have been training his ass off since his last fight, chomping at the bit to get his next shot. And he's been training with the Diaz brothers. You know what I mean? So for all I know, man, this dude could come in like a savage. And that's exactly what I'm preparing for, is a savage ass fight. So I'm putting in all the hard work, and I'm looking at this dude like he's 42-0. You know what I mean? I'm not I'm not looking past anyone. It doesn't matter who they are, whether they have a couple of fights or a bunch of fights. So that's kind of like where my mind is going with Martin. If I had to expect anything, which I don't try to expect too much with fights, but I do expect him to have some good boxing and some good jiu-jitsu. Obviously, coming from where he comes from, in the
Yeah.
Diaz brothers, they got good hands and they got good submissions and they got good jiu-jitsu. So I'm preparing for it, man. I'm very well coached up, and I've done my homework on this guy, and I'm gonna keep watching film and doing what I got to do. But I'm more worried about what I'm going to be doing to him and the will I'm going to be imposing on him for sure.
All right. So the card you're fighting on, UFC 266, it's leading up to be one of the biggest cards of the year. Obviously, with the 3 huge fights up on the main card, and even with the prelims leading up, there's a lot of exciting, fun fights going up. So does the magnitude of the card, does that bother you at all, like fighting on that big a stage?
No, not at all. If anything, it makes it better. I'm like, I have a strange personality, man. Like, if like you could put me in a room of like 2 or 3 people, and I probably wouldn't do as well as if I had like a full, like thousands of people around watching, man. It's something about pressure, and this is something I've learned about myself playing sports mainly in life, and going through life in general is it's just I'm game, man. Like I'm ready to attack anything and do anything. So
Awesome. That sounds great to hear. So right now, like, to stray a little bit away from you and your fight, there's a couple pretty big events coming up, like even over this weekend. Right now, we obviously have the fight night with Edson Barboza and Giga Chikadze. I want to know if you're going to be tuning in for that, and if you are, who are you picking to win?
ooh, I'm definitely gonna be tuning in. That's for sure. Honestly, man, I didn't know much about Giga until I learned about the Giga kick. And
Yeah.
I've been watching some of his like his glory fights and other fights, and it blows my mind. It's like I can't pick anyone specifically. If I had to pick someone, I'm gonna go ahead and pick my man Barboza, because I'm a huge fan of him and I've been watching him for a while. But yeah, man, talk about a clash of kickers, man. Like, this is gonna be a really exciting fight. Like, that's something you don't see very. I mean, you do see it obviously because it's mixed martial arts. You see a bunch of different styles, match up with different styles. But I can't remember, at least recently, the last time we've had like 2 really, really good like kickers going at each other, like one like in this matchup.
Yeah. Apart from that one's definitely going to be. It promises to be fireworks, like from the start to finish, with strikers as high level as that. I want to take you to another fight that's about as high profile, or probably more, but maybe not on the same level technically, but it's definitely got a lot of buzz. So Tyron Woodley is supposed to be boxing Logan Paul tomorrow. Jake Paul, sorry. Is that something you're into? And if you are, who are you rooting for? Who do you think will win?
Kind of like mixed emotions about it, man, because like I guess I was watching, what was it? I forget who the interview was with, but they were talking about like Jake Paul and like this and that. Like, in a way, like he is advocating for like fighters in a way, and he is doing like some things that are like okay, in the sense that like he's trying to advocate for fighters to get more money and this and that. But you know what I mean? I think it all kind of pales in comparison to a lot of the negativity and shit he's put out against the MMA community. And I don't
Yeah,
hey man, like, you can say whatever you want. It's a free country. I'm not gonna go out of my way to like express my opinion about him, but um yeah, man, just a lot of animosity. To be honest, I hope Tyron just shuts him up, and just shuts down his whole little thing that he's got going on right now. But yeah, man, it is what it is. It's a fight game. People talk
yeah.
shit to each other. They won't try to sell a fight, but I'm not gonna buy it. But I'm definitely gonna be keeping a lookout for the highlights, because it's gonna be all over fucking Instagram and Twitter and all that shit. So I'll catch a highlight of it somehow.
Definitely. I mean, good weekend of fights.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. I'm excited.
So yeah, so that's about it. And I'd like to thank you once again for being on our show and taking time out. No, it's got to be a pretty hectic time right now, especially since you're in camp. And yeah, I'd just like to thank you and just wish you best of luck for your fight coming up. I'll definitely be tuning in, and I'm sure it's gonna be fucking amazing to watch.
Oh, dude, I'm telling you, man, it's gonna be great. Don't fucking blink. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't intend to, man.
Cool, brother.
But yeah, see ya,
Appreciate it,
man.
man.
Bruce.